My local radio station has been announcing people's names for a while now. I just found out what it meant. For as long as I can remember, WLNK 97.3. The link has been the local radio station in my town. It's one of those stations that plays a little bit of everything. Old rock, some pop hits, even a few talk shows when the ad money dries up. Everyone listens to it. You know, that kind of station that's always on in the background at diners, garages, and grocery stores. I'd been a casual listener my whole life. It was dependable, familiar, safe. But all of that changed 3 months ago, the night I noticed something I can't explain. Something no one else seems to believe, no matter how many times I try to tell them. It started on a Monday night. I'd been driving home late from work, flipping between stations when I landed on WLNK. I wasn't paying much attention, just another evening commute. The DJ was wrapping up a song, probably something by Fleetwood Mac, when he cut to his usual banter. "And now, the name of the night," he said, his voice dropping into a strange, almost playful tone. There was a pause, static buzzing faintly in the background. Then, with eerie clarity, the DJ said a single name, Jessica Browning. It felt odd. There was no context, no explanation, just a name, dropped into the ether like a stone into still water. I shrugged it off. Maybe it was part of a contest or some weird new segment. But I couldn't shake the way it felt. The delivery was too strange, too deliberate. I forgot about it until the following Monday. I was driving again, same time, same station, when the DJ did it again. And now, the name of the night. This time the name was Robert Sanchez. Another pause. Another song. The pattern continued every Monday at exactly 11:05 p.m. One name. No explanation. Just dropped into the void. By the 5th week, curiosity had gotten the better of me. I started listening religiously, notebook in hand. Each Monday night, I'd jot down the name, and each week, I'd search social media, local news sites, anything that might explain what this segment was about. At first, I found nothing. No contests, no winners, no mentions of the names anywhere. But then something changed. One week, the name was Caleb Howard. It stuck with me because Caleb worked at the gas station near my apartment. We weren't friends or anything, but I'd chatted with him a few times while paying for coffee or snacks. He was a nice guy, always had a smile on his face. I didn't think much of it until a week later, when I stopped at the gas station and saw a "Help Find Caleb" poster taped to the door. He'd gone missing. The clerk behind the counter, a college kid with a nervous energy, told me Caleb had just disappeared after his shift. No one knew where he'd gone. His car was still in the parking lot. I couldn't believe it. Caleb's name had been said on WLNK exactly a week before. I told myself it was a coincidence, but deep down I knew it wasn't. I started digging. I went through the names I'd written down in my notebook and searched for any trace of them. By now, I had 6 names, including Caleb's. 3 of them, Jessica Browning, Robert Sanchez, and Caleb Howard, were confirmed missing. Their faces stared back at me from articles and social media posts, plastered with desperate pleas from friends and family. No one else seemed to see the pattern. I tried asking people about the radio show, but everyone looked at me like I was crazy. A few people said they listened to WLNK, but none of them had noticed the Name of the Night segment. Some even insisted it didn't exist. I couldn't explain it. How could a radio broadcast that I heard every week leave no trace? By the time the 8th name was announced, I was obsessed. The name was Emily Carter. I didn't know her personally, but a quick search on social media turned up her profile. She was 28, lived on the other side of town, and worked as a veterinary assistant. Her posts were filled with photos of smiling dogs and cats, each caption brimming with positivity. I couldn't let her vanish like the others. I sent her a message. It was awkward, clumsy. "Hi, you don't know me, but I heard your name mentioned on a radio station. It's hard to explain, but I think something bad might happen to you soon. Please be careful." She didn't reply. Over the next week, I checked her profile obsessively. She posted like normal, pictures of her dog, updates from work, jokes about her favorite TV shows. Nothing seemed out of the ordinary. Then exactly 7 days later, her post stopped. I knew what that meant. The next morning, I saw a news article. Local veterinary assistant reported missing. She was gone. I couldn't take it anymore. I needed answers. I started visiting WLNK's building after hours, trying to figure out who was behind the segment. The station was housed in an old, nondescript building downtown. I watched it for hours, hoping to catch a glimpse of the DJ or anyone who might know about the names. Nothing. On a whim, I tried calling the station during the day. The receptionist who answered sounded confused when I asked about the 11:05 broadcast. "We don't have anything like that on our schedule," she said. "Are you sure you're listening to WLNK?" "Yes," I insisted. "It happens every Monday night." There was a long pause. Then quietly, she said, "We don't have live programming at that time." Last Monday, the name was Brandon Lewis. I found him online, a local contractor with a wife and 2 kids. I didn't bother messaging him this time. No one ever believed me. Instead, I decided to confront the source. At 10:30 p.m., I parked outside WLNK. The building was dark except for a single light on the second floor. I waited, heart pounding, until 11:05. When the time came, I heard it, the muffled sound of the broadcast through the building's walls. And now, the name of the night. I burst through the door. Inside, the station was eerily silent. The reception desk was empty, the hallways dark. I followed the faint sound of the DJ's voice up a flight of creaky stairs to the second floor. At the end of the hallway, a door was slightly ajar, warm light spilling into the corridor. I pushed it open. The room was empty, just an old desk, a microphone, and a tangle of outdated broadcasting equipment. The light on the on-air sign flickered weakly, and the static-filled voice of the DJ continued. "Brandon Lewis." I stepped closer, and the equipment suddenly shut off. The room plunged into silence. Then I saw it. Taped to the wall behind the desk was a list of names, written in neat, looping handwriting. My heart stopped when I saw the last entry. Ethan Grant. That's my name. It's been 6 days since that broadcast. I've locked myself in my apartment, every door and window sealed. The phone rings sometimes, but I don't answer it. Tomorrow is day 7. If anyone hears this, if anyone knows what's happening, please don't let them say another name, because no one ever comes back. My wife is convinced that I've been replaced. Please help me. I don't know what to do. Yes, it probably sounds insane. I should start with the backstory, but God, how hard it is to remember the simple, happy times before everything that happened. I met my wife, Catherine, when she was 24 and I was 28. We lived in a small town in Kentucky. You'd have trouble finding it even with a map, and the population was tiny. Everyone knew each other. I'd worked as an electrician all my life, first at a factory, then I started my own small business. Repairs, wiring, private jobs. My love life had never really worked out until I met her. She worked as an elementary school teacher, smiled at every child, was kind and polite to everyone. My Catherine was the only ray of light in the darkness around me. I loved her for her simplicity. She could find joy in the most ordinary things. Morning coffee, the smell of wet grass, a cheap movie on the couch. We didn't have much money, but we had peace, a home, a dog, and that feeling that everything was right, that everything would be fine. I spent evenings fixing things while she wrote lesson plans or knitted. Sometimes we'd sit in silence, listening to crickets, or stay up all night talking about everything and nothing, thinking about children and what we'd name them. Back then, it felt like life had finally found its meaning. The problems began maybe 2 months ago. At first, small things. She started having trouble sleeping, then began looking at me strangely, as if something in my face disturbed her. I asked if everything was okay, and she laughed. "Sorry, just tired. The kids at school are driving me crazy." Gradually, though, I can't even say exactly when it got worse. She slept less. Not because she had insomnia, but because she was afraid to fall asleep. I asked her what was wrong, but she said she was fine. Still, when we lay together, she'd suddenly get up and go into another room, returning only at dawn. She started having nightmares, but never told me what they were. One day I lost my temper. You have to understand, I was just worried about my wife. From the lack of sleep, she started to look worse. Dark circles under her eyes, red eyes, pale skin. She lost weight, and every time I tried to help, she pushed me away. So I sat her down across from me and directly asked what she was dreaming about. She was silent for a long time, trembling and glancing at me furtively, as if she was afraid. And then, when tears began to roll down her cheeks, she whispered, "There's a man in my dreams. God, I'm scared, Tom." I went to hug her, and when I reached for her, she flinched, as if I'd frightened her. After that, things seemed to get better, or so I thought. How wrong I was. She used to ask how my day went, but now she just stared out the window. With each passing day, she spoke to me less and less. Her words short and dry, and then she'd go to the bathroom or kitchen for some errands, closing the door behind her. And it wasn't just the silence, her eyes had changed. If before they were green, emerald-like, full of life and love, now her gaze made my spine go cold. There wasn't anger or hatred there. No. It was something closer to mistrust, wariness, as if she was seeing me for the first time. Over the next week, I began to feel anxious, a strange burning under my skin, as if something was wrong, but I couldn't tell where the crack was until I realized. She was studying me. When I drank coffee, I could feel her eyes on me. I'd look up and she'd immediately turn away, pretending to slice fruit, but her fingers trembled and the knife froze halfway to the board. I'd step outside for a smoke, and when I turned around, I'd see her peeking through the curtain, then she'd instantly close it. When I showered, I'd catch her watching me, studying my body, then she'd run away. She started doing it even while I slept. She almost stopped talking to me, instead writing something in a notebook and hiding it as soon as I entered the room. Photos began to disappear from their frames. She'd talk on the phone with someone, but hang up the moment I came in. I made an appointment with a psychologist for us, but she refused, said she was afraid to be near me. It all happened so suddenly. It seemed just yesterday we were stargazing in each other's arms. And now this. The strangeness grew every day. Sometimes she asked me to sleep on the couch. I agreed, hoping it would calm her. But it was useless, her paranoia only worsened. It got to the point where, when I tried to hug her, she screamed, "Don't come near me!" and flinched as if I'd hit her. After one of those nights, I decided I had to find out what was really going on, even if it meant taking her to a doctor afterward. I pretended to be asleep when she stood in the hallway. Then she slowly approached, soft, careful steps. She stopped at the foot of the bed, and for several seconds, there was a dead silence, broken only by her uneven breathing. I could feel her watching, not just watching, comparing. That's when I became truly terrified, a cold dread twisting inside me as my wife became something I couldn't recognize. Then the bed shifted slightly. She sat down on the edge. The air grew heavy. I could feel her stare physically, like pressure on my skin. Then her cold fingers gently touched my wrist, held it for a few seconds, then quickly let go, as if burned, and whispered, "Pulse faster than Tom's." My heart clenched so hard I nearly twitched. She leaned closer. I could hear her breathing against my face, short, shaky. She smelled of lavender and something sour that made goosebumps crawl down my back. Her lips barely moved. I remember clearly, Tom had a small scar right here. She touched my cheek. But you don't. I clenched my teeth to keep from gasping. Those few seconds of silence lasted an eternity. What scar? I never had a scar on my cheek. I'd know if I did. I wanted to sink into the ground and scream all at once, but I kept lying still until I heard a choked sob and her fading footsteps. The door slammed. I opened my eyes, my heart pounding furiously. I didn't sleep for the rest of the night, too afraid to close my eyes. In the morning, I went to work early, dreading the hours until my shift ended. That evening over dinner, I said, "Kate, we need to talk. What's going on?" She gripped her fork so tightly her knuckles turned white, then looked me dead in the eye. "Tom, you've been acting strange." "What do you mean?" "I don't know. Sometimes you look different. Sometimes your voice sounds wrong. You even smell different." I didn't know what to say. My head was chaos, and somehow I just laughed. "Kate, maybe you're just imagining things." "I don't know, Tom." My eyes fell on the knife rack. There was a clean strip of dust where the largest kitchen knife should have been the one we used for everything. Bread, meat, anything. I distinctly remembered it being there before that night. My heart slammed into my throat with a primal panic. I looked at Kate, and she was staring right at me. I wanted to speak, but couldn't. It hit me, then my wife might be planning to kill me. The next morning she left for work, and I, like a caged animal, started searching the house. I hadn't slept in nearly 48 hours. I know I should have just left or taken her to a hospital. But she's my wife. I love her. She has to see that I am me. I tore through the apartment, frantic, desperate to find something, anything that would help me understand what was happening to her. And I did. After about an hour, in the back of the closet behind a pile of sweaters, I found her wooden box. Old, slightly cracked. The lid was ajar, and when I opened it, a thick notebook fell into my hands. It smelled of coffee and sweat. Her initials on the cover, written in her neat cursive. My heart froze as I realized it was the diary she'd been hiding from me. The paper bent under my fingers, her handwriting familiar, but this time jagged, shaky, the page stained with what looked like tears. He's sleeping. I stand by the bed and watch. He looks like Tom, but he's not. Tom had a scar on his left hand from that accident by the river. This one's skin is smooth. He smiles, but the smile doesn't reach his eyes. Something replaced him. I keep counting days, marking steps. If the real Tom, my husband, is alive, where is he? A wave of nausea rose in my throat. With each page, her handwriting grew more erratic. I tested his speech. He says, "I love you," in the same tone, but without warmth, not like before. Tom smelled of vanilla, but this one smells of dust and cheap cologne. I couldn't believe what I was reading. My knees trembled. The air around me tightened like a noose. I flipped to the last page. I can't let this thing stay in our house. It wears his smile, his name. I tried talking to it, begging, but it just smiled and said all the right words. It didn't defend itself. Maybe because it isn't afraid. Its right hand twitches when it lies. I could have killed it today, but for some reason I couldn't. I know I have to. For Tom. I won't let some monster wear his skin. My hands were slick with sweat. My whole body was sweating, even though the room was cold. I placed the diary on the bed and sat down, trying to process everything I'd just read. An accident? God, she was exaggerating. All that came out of it was a concussion and some bruised ribs. I stayed in the hospital for about a week. Yeah, 7 days. Then my phone rang, making me jump. It was Sheriff Martin, a kind old man I'd known for years. "Tom, everything all right over there?" Catherine called. "Said someone's living in your house pretending to be her husband." I froze. What did you say? Says you're not you. I've known her for Yara, always seemed stable. Domestic quarrel, huh? No, just stress. She's tired. Evening came slowly. I sat on the couch, elbows on my knees, looking at an old photograph of the one that used to sit on our mantel before all this. Catherine and I by the lake, smiling, her arms around me, the sun so bright that day we had to squint. I stared at us, at the little details, her blonde hair catching the light, her hand around mine, the green shimmer in our eyes. It felt like a lifetime ago. When the door creaked open, I nearly jumped. My wife's, if I can still call her that, steps were slow and tired, her bag thudding softly to the floor. She looked exhausted, her eyes red, her hair a mess. I stood, holding the diary. Kate, we need to talk. She looked at me warily, like a trapped animal sensing a snare. What's that in your hand? Her voice was even, but something trembled in it. I found this. I need to understand what's happening, I said, showing her the diary. Catherine froze. For a moment I thought she'd break down crying, but instead, she slowly stepped closer, looking straight into my face, her cold breath brushing against my skin. So what did you figure out, Tom? That I'm crazy? You think I've lost my mind, don't you? No, you wrote that I've been replaced, that I don't have a scar. She turned away, her lips pressed tight. Tom had one. We even joked it made him look tougher. Listen, sweetheart. I took a step closer, a strange knot tightening in my gut. I'm the same man. I remember everything. How we met, the candles at our wedding, how you laugh when we watch comedies, what you said about that stupid show when we finished it. I remember everything, Catherine. It's me. She stared at me, unblinking, her shoulders trembling as if she were freezing. I looked into her eyes, and there was something there, pain and horror mixed together, as if I stood before her as someone both familiar and wrong. You say it like you've rehearsed it, she whispered. Because it's true. I stepped closer, my voice cracking into a shout. What do I have to do for you to believe me? What? Catherine said nothing, just breathed heavily, like she was fighting herself, staring into my eyes. Then she suddenly backed away, step by step toward her bag. I didn't realize what was happening at first. She bent down, as if for a handkerchief. And in the next moment I saw the glint of metal, a knife, the missing one. Kate, I breathed, disbelieving. Catherine, put it down. Stop. Stop pretending, you monster. I managed half a step toward her. She raised her hand. At first, I thought she was only threatening me. Panic tightened my fists. I wanted to yell, to grab her shoulders, to make her listen. But then, a strike. Burning pain slashed through my chest. Everything went white. The last thing I saw was her face so familiar, twisted by terror and despair at once. She stood over me, her hand trembling, her lips whispering something like, Tom, where are you, my love? And then everything went dark. I woke up in a hospital. At first, nothing but fog, then the smell of antiseptic, the faint beep of a monitor, unfamiliar voices. I tried to move my head, pain shot through my body. The doctor explained I'd lost a lot of blood, but somehow survived. The knife missed my heart by an inch. Catherine had run away. I listened, not believing any of it was real. A couple of days later, Martin came by. I told him everything about the knife, the diary, her thinking I wasn't me. He listened, frowning, taking notes. When he finished and was about to leave, he turned back. Didn't expect this from Catherine. Don't worry, we'll find her. When you're discharged, come by my place. I got some Cuban cigars from a friend. We'll relax a bit. Without thinking, I said, I don't smoke. He frowned, about to say something, but then just nodded and left, closing the door behind him. For several minutes I lay there, staring at the ceiling, trying to come to terms with everything that had happened. Then I noticed a small mirror in the corner of the room. I looked at my reflection and froze. My face was pale, my lips dry. But that wasn't what caught my attention. Interesting. Can eyes change color from green to blue? I worked the night shift at a hospital, and the child I treated was the only survivor of a brutal crime. I thought that night shift would be quiet until I saw Emily being rushed into the hospital on a stretcher, pushed by 3 police officers. It rained like hell that night. She was 13, maybe 14 years old, and had a fragile body covered in dried dirt and dark blood. Her left arm showed a deep bruise spreading from wrist to elbow. There were abrasions on her legs and shoulder, like she had rolled across rough ground. The girl was unconscious, neck, and completely soaked from the rain. "What happened?" I asked, gripping the side of the stretcher as we moved toward the emergency room. The officer in front of us, a heavy-set man with a tired face, kept flipping through a small notebook without looking up. His badge read, "Harris, Detective." "The girl called 911, reporting a break-in," he said. "She locked herself in her bedroom. When we arrived, we found her unconscious on the ground outside, in the backyard. But the worst was inside that house." "What do you mean?" I asked, cutting the sleeve of her shirt with my scissors. It wasn't a pretty scene. He finally looked at me, his tone calm, like someone who sees this kind of thing every week. "The girl's parents were dead in the bedroom. Bruises around the neck, broken nails, and signs of a struggle. There was water everywhere, too. We still don't get that part." I pressed gauze against the wound on her arm. The skin was scraped and split in places, swollen from impact, consistent with a fall. "Looks like she fell from something," I said. "Yeah," Harris replied. "Her room is on the 2nd floor, right above where we found her. She probably tried to get away from someone." "And did you catch the one who did this?" Harris hesitated, like he was weighing his words, solving an equation in his head. "Well," he said, "things don't make much sense right now. No signs of forced entry. No indication anyone else was inside the house. The family had security cameras outside, so that should tell us something." I secured a temporary wrap around her arm and nodded to the nurse who came to help me. We moved Emily into an observation room, and there stood just the 3 of us. Me, Harris, and the nurse, setting up the IV and checking her vitals. While I worked, Harris stepped away from the bed. He stood near the wall, writing frantically in his notebook. Emily then moved for the first time, still unconscious, and a low sound slipped from her mouth. "Big brother is here," she murmured as if in a fever. "Don't let him in." I must have had almost 2 cups of coffee before the nurse called my name, her voice excited. "She's awake." I expected to find shock from her after she woke up. Instead, Emily sat upright in bed, perfectly still. Her eyes were fixed on the window, where rain was still falling, like bricks against the glass. Her hands were clenched tight in her lap. Detective Harris was again inside the room, notebook in hand, standing uncomfortably close to her. "What are you doing?" I asked him. "She's not ready to take questions." "Tell me what happened." He ignored me. "You called 911 and said you were scared of a big brother or something." His pen hovered, waiting. Emily said nothing and kept on staring out the window. "Where was he standing?" Harris continued. "Did he touch you? Did you see him hurt your parents?" I stepped between them. "That's enough. She's a patient and a minor." Harris closed the notebook with a quiet snap, then left. I couldn't understand why he was treating a victim that directly. Emily kept staring at the window, her fists still closed. I checked her arm again. The swelling was already going down, and the nurse crouched beside the bed and followed Emily's gaze. "Would you like something to eat?" the nurse asked softly. "My shoulder hurts," she finally spoke. not answering the question. I checked it, and it was a mild bruise. "Nothing serious," I said, adjusting the pillow beneath her shoulder. She relaxed a little, so I asked if she felt any other pain, and told her that her hand would be fine soon. She nodded, and I took her silence as a response to trauma. Some people cry, others shut down. For a moment, I saw her glance toward a few magazines and books stacked at the far end of the room, forgotten there by a previous patient no one had bothered to clear out. I picked up the books and brought them to her. She opened one of them right away, curiosity lighting her face for the first time. "Do you read a lot?" I asked. She nodded and told me a little about the books she had read, how she really enjoyed science fiction, and how the new school her father made her attend didn't have a library as big as the last one. I didn't ask about her parents, but there was tension there she didn't put into words. "My big brother was the only one that gave me books," she continued suddenly. "That's when I read my first science fiction." "Who is this big brother you mention?" I asked. Emily stayed quiet for a few seconds before answering. "He's my brother," she said. "He's not here anymore, but he still talks to me a lot. Sometimes he is nice. Sometimes he is not nice. Sometimes he does bad things, especially when he sees that I'm angry." "Like what?" She didn't look up. "Like what he did today to Dad and Mom." I talked with Emily a little longer, although she didn't come back to the murders. Then I stepped into the hallway, found Detective Harris standing by the nurse's station, hunched over his notebook. His eyes were wide, focused, almost manic. He waved me over. "The cameras don't show anyone entering the house," he said. "None of it makes sense. I need to get her statement." "She mentioned a big brother a few times," I said. "Maybe you can start with that." "Yeah, same one from the 911 call," he replied. "But it doesn't add up. Only 3 people lived in that house. And we're finding some concerning details about the girl." "Like what?" "We found Emily has been in long-term psychiatric care since she was 9, and she was expelled from her last school for a violent incident. I'm trying to reach her therapist and the school to understand what happened." My stomach tightened. I didn't like where this was going. "She's just a kid," I said. "She wouldn't have the physical strength to harm 2 adults." "I'm not saying she did it," Harris shot back, "but kids can be dangerous. You have no idea what I've seen on this job, especially kids with the kind of issues I think Emily has." He paused, rubbing his face. "I don't understand exactly how it happened either, but something about this big brother thing doesn't add up." His phone rang, thankfully. "1 second," he said, walking away. I agreed something felt wrong, but I pushed it aside. I had other patients waiting. It took me an hour or so before I returned to Emily's room. She was alone now. The rain hadn't let up. She was still reading quietly, and I wondered if I had ever seen a child handle grief so calmly. I stepped closer, asked about the book, and checked the injury on her arm again. A few minutes later, Detective Harris stormed in, eyes sharp. Emily lowered her head when she saw him. "Did you try to strangle a girl at your school, Emily?" he asked, standing too close to the bed. "Is that why you were expelled?" Emily's fist tightened, and she stood silent. "And this big brother who hurt your parents?" Harris continued. "Dr. Janik told me you often talk to him when you're alone. Isn't that right?" He leaned in, resting his arms on the edge of the bed. "Tell me what really happened that night, Emily. Then we can help you." "He did it," she said quietly, her voice breaking. "My big brother." "Enough of this nonsense," Harris snapped. "Enough," I raised my voice, stepping between them. "She's in shock, and you can't interrogate her here. I'm no lawyer, but I'm pretty sure this isn't okay." Harris pulled his hands back and took a step away. "Andre, right?" he continued, his voice softer now. "Your big brother's name. The one who died 5 years ago in the lake. I remember the news." Emily froze at the sound of the name. Who is Andre? I asked. Her older brother, Harris said, flipping open his notebook again. Drowned at Lake Sammamish with a group of friends one summer. A tragedy. Emily, you've been hearing him ever since, haven't you? Tears finally began to fall from Emily's eyes. This isn't a police station, I said, my voice tight with anger. Get out. Now. No, let him stay, Emily interrupted me, lifting her face. I'll tell him everything that happened. I told her she didn't have to say anything yet, that it would be better to wait for a representative. Her grandmother was on her way from a nearby town and should be here within the hour. She shook her head. I can do this, she said. I'll tell it now. I have to. I swallowed hard as I caught the look on Harris's victorious face. I told them I had other patients to attend to and left the room, with a bitter taste in my mouth, leaving the two of them alone. A few minutes later, I was in the break room, halfway through my third cup of coffee of the night, listening to the rain pound outside. Thunder rolled past the windows, and a few lights flickered, before suddenly going out. The blackout lasted less than a minute before the backup generator kicked in. When the lights returned, some of them were dimmer than usual, flickering as the system stabilized. As I walked back through the patient corridor where Emily was, I noticed something wrong immediately. Her room was completely dark. I opened the door and felt something cold and wet soak into my shoes. There were a couple of inches of water covering the entire floor. Emily was still on the bed, her face locked in an expression of terror I don't know how to describe. She looked at me like she was desperately trying to warn me of something, but she didn't need to say anything. I saw it on the floor. Detective Harris. He lay in a spreading pool of water, his body still. His eyes were bulged, staring at nothing, and his neck bent at an angle so extreme it made my stomach turn. My instinct was to scream for help, but Emily spoke first. Stay quiet, she warned me, or he'll touch you. I wanted to ask who, but the words wouldn't come out. And then I realized I was about to get my answer whether I wanted it or not. I felt something behind me, pressed against the wall, near the door I had just entered through. Its shadow stretched across the floor, tall and wide. Slowly I turned. It was pale, towering over me by more than 5 feet. Its shape was vaguely human, but its limbs were too long, too thin. There was no hair, no clothing. Water dripped from its body, and its torso was tangled with algae and freshwater plants. Its eyes were white, empty and unblinking. Don't hurt him, Andre, Emily whispered to that thing. Please, he's a good one. I'll go with you this time. It didn't respond. It just kept staring at my petrified body. Emily spoke to me again, her voice firm now. Walk slowly to the door. He won't hurt you if you do just that. I can't just leave you with it, I said, using the last bit of courage I had left. A low, wet growl filled the room. The thing didn't like that, and every cell in my body told me it wanted to do to my neck exactly what it had done to Harris. He won't hurt me, she said. He just wants to protect me. Stay with me. I knew then I couldn't do anything. Staying would only get me killed, so I did what she said. Step by step, I moved toward the door, turned the handle, and stepped back into the hospital hallway. The thing allowed me to do it, its white eyes following me every inch of the way. But immediately after I got out, I ran. I ran like I never had before, straight to the head nurse's station, shouting for her to call hospital security and the police. Then I went back toward Emily's room, my legs weak with guilt for leaving her behind. I had left the door open when I fled, so I peeked inside carefully, trying to get a better look at the thing. Emily was no longer on the bed. I stepped inside. Emily wasn't in the room. Neither was that thing. On the bed, resting on the blanket where she had been sitting, was the book I had given her. The window she had stared at all night was now open, rain blowing in, wide open. White noise, black screen. There is a video on YouTube simply titled, white noise, black screen. It is a 10-hour-long video designed for playing while you're asleep. It stands out among the other white noise videos, though, because at around the 6-hour mark, there is a huge spike in the most replayed section. In case you don't know, most replayed is a feature on YouTube that shows what part of the video other people played over and over again. For most videos, it makes sense. On a creepy urban explorers video, the most replayed might be where the person encounters a ghost or creepy person, etc. Or a funny skit video might be most replayed at the punchline. But for a video that's playing white noise and a black screen for 10 hours, why would there be a most replayed section? But there it was, a 30-second portion of the video at the timestamp, 6 hours, 18 minutes. Out of curiosity, I jumped to that part of the video and played it, but it looked and sounded the same as the rest of the video. Black screen, white noise. No blips in the audio or change to the visuals, as far as I could tell. Maybe that's when most people get up. I mean, that was 6 hours of sleep, right? Maybe a lot of people woke up about 6 hours into the video and shut it off. That wouldn't really be replaying it, though. And also, 30 seconds in a 10-hour video was too accurate. Some people would wake up 6 hours in, 6 hours 5 minutes in, etc. The most replayed feature showed a spike at exactly 6:18:14. A huge, narrow spike, specifically at that time, not a broader hump that would imply a range of wake-up times. Maybe someone linked the video at that time by accident and shared it to a lot of people. Comments were turned off, so I couldn't check if people were saying anything else about it. Despite the weirdness, that night I decided to play the video while I slept. That's how I found the video in the first place. I really did need white noise. My neighbor's dog kept barking at 6 a.m., and I needed sleep. I pressed play on the video and went to bed, and woke up with a start in the middle of the night. I didn't know what woke me up. My phone said it was 3:37 a.m. My room was pitch black, except for the dark gray glow of the white noise, black screen video playing. I rolled over, pulled the blanket over me, and tried to fall back asleep, but my body was pumping with adrenaline. It was like I'd woken up from a nightmare or something, even though I didn't remember having one. I tried to relax, slowly counting in my head. That's when I heard something else. It's hard to describe, but I'll try. Some white noises are computer generated so that they truly make a uniform rushing sound the entire time. Others, however, especially in older sound machines, are actually a clip of white noise repeating over and over again. Listening to it long enough, your brain starts to pick out a pattern of the subtly changing tone, and it gets really annoying. That's what this felt like. My brain was suddenly picking out a pattern, a sort of rhythm, to the white noise, even though I hadn't heard it when I fell asleep. The longer I lay there, tossing and turning, the more my brain picked up on the pattern. A series of whooshes and clicks. It was really annoying. I'm one of those people who can't sleep in the same room with a ticking clock, and that's what this felt like. Whoosh, whoop, click. Whoosh, whoop, click. My nerves grew ragged. Whoosh, whoop, click. Just when I couldn't stand it anymore, just when I was about to get out of bed and turn it off, because anything, even barking dogs at 6 a.m., was better than this, I heard it. A growling sound. "Who's there?" I shouted. Nothing. I sat up, and my heart dropped. A pair of white eyes floated in the darkness. On my computer screen. I watched, frozen, as the eyes shifted, off the computer screen. They hung in the darkness a full foot away, staring me down. Then it moved. The eyes blazed white as the thing leapt for me, shadowy hands reaching across the bed. A shock of pain as something tightened around my wrist. I scrambled away, kicking, grabbed my phone off the nightstand, turned on the flashlight. Nothing was there. I ran to the door and turned on the lights. The bedroom was empty. I grabbed the laptop and saw that I was just past the 6:18 mark in the video. The most replayed part. I rewound it, replayed it. Nothing was there. No growl, no shadowy figure, no blazing white eyes. I ran to the bathroom and splashed water on my face, trying to calm myself, to break myself out of the panic. It was just a dream. You were half asleep. That's all it was. But when I looked down at my arm, I saw a purple bruise just above my wrist, in the shape of a slender, skeletal hand. I had a disturbing conversation with my 7-year-old daughter. Dad, I saw a zombie. I was in the kitchen making tea when my little girl came rushing in. She ran through the back door so fast she almost tripped up the step. I poured boiling water from the kettle into a mug, hardly looking up. Oh yeah? Yeah, I did. Its face was all pale and messed up. It was gross, Dad. I put the kettle back and picked up the milk. Sighed inwardly. I really had to be more careful about what I watched on TV in the evening. Rosie has a habit of sneaking downstairs in the night, and last week she caught me watching The Walking Dead, of all things. She's had zombies on the brain ever since. I keep telling her they're not real, but it doesn't seem to make a difference. Sweetheart, what did we say about zombies? I scooped the tea bag out of the mug and dumped it in the bin. You know, if you keep talking about them, Daddy's going to get in trouble with Mummy again. Yeah, but I saw one. I know, darling, but I already checked the back garden twice yesterday, and I can promise you it's a zombie-free zone. No, not in the back garden. I didn't see it in the back garden. I had the mug half raised to my lips, but now I put it down again. I turned to look at Rosie. Her hair was windswept and her little cheeks were red, as if she'd been running. Sweetheart, I put on my best stern, Dad's not happy voice. I'm going to ask you a question, and I want you to be honest with me. Have you been playing along the path out back again? I didn't really need to ask the question, because I already knew the answer. Rosie is allowed to play in the garden on her own, and sometimes, if she asks us permission first, we let her ride her bike along the path at the back of our house, the one that runs past all the neighbors' back gardens. But that's all we allow her to do. This area is pretty safe, but these days you can never be too careful. There was a burglary a couple of roads over a few months back, and last year someone was mugged on the high street. Several years ago, a few towns over, a little boy even went missing. That was quite a long way away from here, of course, but it made national news for a few days until the search fizzled out. And it made a lot of parents more cautious. Rosie's getting older now, and she's an adventurous girl, but still, you have to have boundaries. And on a few occasions lately, Rosie's been crossing those boundaries. Riding her bike further than she should, not coming in straight away when we call her, sneaking out the back gate when she's only meant to be playing in the garden. As I watched Rosie now, I noticed her face growing redder. She looked away from me, down at the kitchen floor, and scuffed her feet. Dad, I only went a little way down, she said. I promise. I was chatting to Mr. Henderson because I saw him in his back garden. I said hello and made him jump. I sighed. So there it was. Mr. Henderson was Rosie's zombie. Yesterday it was the postman, and the day before that it was a different neighbor. I took a sip of tea and shook my head. Mr. Henderson was, in fairness, a better candidate than the others. The guy lives on his own, and he looks about 100 years old. Moles all over his face, skin like a deflated balloon. Whenever we'd chatted over the garden fence before, though, he'd always seemed nice enough, just a bit lonely. I couldn't have Rosie going round calling him a zombie. Listen to me, sweetheart. I know you didn't go far or anything, but I don't want you— I came right back after too, Dad, Rosie interrupted. She was staring up at me now, blue eyes large and pleading. I promise. And I even said no when Mr. Henderson offered me an ice cream, because I know you don't like me taking stuff from strangers. I opened my mouth to respond, then paused. He offered you ice cream. Yeah, but I said no. Mr. Henderson really wanted me to come in and have one, but I told him I had to get home, and then I came straight back here to tell you I'd seen a zombie. And Rosie was babbling now, her voice whirring like a motor. But I'd stopped listening. My mind was still stuck on something she'd said a moment before. Mr. Henderson really wanted me to come in and have one. I took another sip of tea and frowned. That wasn't good. I didn't mind the neighbors chatting to my little girl, but I didn't like the thought of them inviting her in. Not without us there. Not even if they were just kind, lonely old men. I made up my mind to go round and visit Mr. Henderson later, and to tell him that myself. Kindly, of course, but firmly. In the end, though, I didn't get a chance. Because a few moments after I'd had the thought, Rosie said something else. Something that pushed everything else from my mind and ended any idea I might have had about going over to Mr. Henderson's house. She said something that made me feel cold. "Daddy, please don't stop me playing in the garden. I promise I won't sneak out again. I don't want the zombie to get me. Rosie, I'm not going to stop you playing in the garden, but you have to make me a couple of promises, too. First, promise me you'll stop going around calling people zombies. Mr. Henderson might be old, but he's not one of the living dead." Rosie frowned. "I didn't." "What do you mean you didn't? You just ran in here a moment ago, calling him one." "No, I didn't. Mr. Henderson's not a zombie. I saw the zombie in his house, but it wasn't him." I frowned. I had the mug raised to my lips to take another sip of tea, but now I put it down again. "What do you mean, sweetheart? You saw someone else in his house?" "Yeah, the zombie, Dad." I could see it pressed against his little basement window while I was talking to him. Cold fingers ran up my spine. "What?" "Yeah, it was really scary. Its face was all bashed up and bloody, and its mouth was open, like it was screaming at me. But do you know what confused me most, Dad?" I tried to keep my voice steady. "What?" "Well, I didn't realize kids could be zombies too. I thought it was only grown-ups. But I guess I must have been wrong, 'cause the one in Mr. Henderson's basement looked just like a little boy. My son keeps drawing a man we've never met. I think he's real. My son, Alex, has always loved drawing. Crayons, markers, whatever he could get his little hands on. At first it was the usual stuff. Dogs, stick figure family portraits, the occasional scribble that only he understood. But last month his drawings changed. It started with a man, a tall figure with no hair, hollow eyes, and a stretched, too wide smile. The first time he showed it to me, I felt uneasy. "Who's this, buddy?" I asked, keeping my tone light. Alex grinned. "That's Mr. Threads." The name made my stomach twist. "Where did you hear that name?" "He told me," Alex said simply, like it was the most obvious thing in the world. "He stands in my doorway at night." I almost dropped the paper. At first I chalked it up to a child's imagination. Kids invent imaginary friends all the time, right? But the drawings didn't stop. They got worse. Every day, Alex brought me a new picture of Mr. Threads. The same elongated smile, the same hollow eyes. And every time, Mr. Threads got closer. One drawing showed him at the end of the hallway, another in the living room, then standing behind me. The night I found a picture of Mr. Threads standing next to Alex's bed, I didn't sleep. Last night I heard something. It was past midnight, and I was getting a glass of water when I heard Alex talking in his room. Soft, hushed whispers. I pressed my ear to the door. "But you don't have to be mad," Alex was saying. "I told her about you. She believes me now." A long silence. Then in the quietest voice I have ever heard my son use, "Okay, I'll tell her." I burst through the door. Alex was sitting up in bed, staring at the open closet. "Who were you talking to?" I demanded. He blinked, like I had just woken him up. "Mr. Thread says you should sleep with the door open tonight." My stomach dropped. "Why?" Alex's lower lip trembled. "So he can come in." I slept with the door locked. This morning, Alex wouldn't look at me. He just kept scribbling furiously, his crayon scratching against the paper. When I finally coaxed it out of his hands, my breath caught in my throat. It was me, sleeping. And behind me, looming over the bed, Mr. Threads. I grabbed my son's shoulders. Alex, tell me the truth. Have you actually seen him? He didn't speak, just gave a tiny, reluctant nod. His little hands gripped the fabric of his pajama pants, and he bit his lower lip. I tried to steady my breathing. When? Every night, he whispered. I thought I might be sick. What does he do? Alex hesitated, then pressed his hands over his eyes. He watches. But he doesn't have eyes, so sometimes he borrows them. A sharp chill ran down my spine. What do you mean, borrows them? Alex shuddered. Sometimes I wake up and everything is blurry, and my eyes hurt. His voice wavered. That's when I know he's using them. My hands started shaking. I ran to the bathroom, flipping the light switch, and studied my son's face. His pupils were dilated, like he'd been staring into pure darkness for hours. I turned his head gently to the side, checking under his eyes. Dark circles, so deep they looked bruised. We're leaving, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. That night I kept every light on in the house. I let Alex sleep in my bed, keeping him tucked close to me, his small fingers gripping my sleeve like he was afraid I'd disappear if he let go. I didn't blame him. I felt the same way. Sleep didn't come easy. Every shadow in the room felt like it was stretching toward us, reaching. I kept reminding myself that it was just in my head, just my own paranoia turning shapes into monsters. Then at 3:07 a.m., Alex gasped awake. I bolted upright. What is it? He trembled violently, clutching at his face. Mom, my eyes, I can't see. I grabbed his shoulders. It's okay, I'm here, you're safe. But even as I said it, I saw the shift in the room. The light flickered, just once, then again, and the temperature dropped. I turned slowly toward the bedroom door. It was open. A long shadow stretched across the floor. Alex sobbed into my chest, his tiny fingers curling into fists. He's here, he whimpered. I didn't look. I couldn't. Instead, I pulled Alex into my arms, stood up and backed toward the farthest corner of the room. My heart slammed against my ribs, every instinct screaming at me to run, but I didn't know where to go. Then, the whisper came. You see me now? I snapped my eyes shut. It was right there. I could feel it, a presence looming over us, stretching, growing, filling the room with something cold and unnatural. My breath came in shallow, rapid gasps. I felt something graze my cheek. I ran. I don't remember getting to the car. I barely remember buckling Alex in, my hands fumbling as I tried to still my shaking fingers. All I remember is driving, tearing down the street at 3:15 in the morning, refusing to look in the rearview mirror. Alex sobbed quietly in the back seat. He knows where we're going. I didn't respond. I just kept driving. That was 3 days ago. We're at my sister's house now, staying in her guest room. Alex hasn't drawn anything since we left. He still wakes up in the middle of the night, though, gasping, clutching at his face, shaking uncontrollably. I don't know what to do. I don't know if running was enough. Because last night, I woke up to Alex standing by the window, his hands pressed to the glass. He's outside, he whispered. He wants to come in. And this morning, I found a drawing crumpled under his pillow, a sketch of my sister's house, with Mr. Thread standing at the front door. Someone keeps texting me, hide and seek. I wish I hadn't ignored it. I received the first message 3 days ago. I was on my break at work, and I got a text notification. It was odd, it was from an unknown number. Normally, I ignored those sorts of messages. Spammers and the like usually showed up with those types of auto texts. But this one was different. It was so strange because no number showed up at all, just the message, hide and seek. I thought someone might have the wrong number for a friend they were trying to get in touch with to play a game, apparently. So I responded, "Think you have the wrong number. Not sure who you are trying to reach, but they are not here." I went about the rest of my workday and was just wrapping things up. When I pulled my phone from my bag, I saw I had another text waiting for me. Same number, or lack of number. It was just another blank line where a number should display and the message, hide and seek. I was confused and slightly annoyed, so I responded again. "Like I said before, I think you have the wrong number. Who is this? Who are you trying to get a hold of to play hide and seek?" I waited, staring at the screen for a minute, and I was about to put it away when I saw a response. "You hide and seek?" My patience had reached its limit, and I figured if they would not answer, then I would just block the non-existent number and hope it would work. Despite the lack of a visible number, the option on the message thread still presented itself, so I was relieved when the weird conversation vanished. I got in my car and started to drive home. I got another notification as I got on the road and used my car's text-to-speech to read it to me. It was Mike, my roommate. He was asking me to pick up more beer from the store since he had apparently finished off what we had left. I groaned at the message and the fact that I was always the one to buy it for us. It was getting old, but I needed a drink after the night I had, so I sent him a message back saying, "I can this time, but if you are going to keep drinking everything we have, then you better start paying for it." I stopped by a nearby gas station close to our apartment and grabbed a case of Miller and continued home. As soon as I got back in the car, I received another text. I was getting annoyed already since I figured it was Mike complaining about being out of something else, but instead, as the text-to-speech read out the message, I knew it was something else. Seek drink? It made sense now, and I immediately called Mike. He answered after several rings and sounded stoned. "Hey man, what's up? Did you grab the beer?" "Yeah, I did. Are you messing with me? How are you sending those messages? When I call you, I can see your number, but not when you sent that weird text. What kind of app are you using? Also, what is the point? I am not home yet. I can't play hide and seek. Never mind that I'm not 5 years old. The seek drink thing was a bit of a giveaway for whatever weird game you are playing." There was a brief pause, and he responded, "Not sure what you mean, man. I didn't send anything like that. Weird, who wants to play hide and seek? Anyway, get home, man. My buzz is fading." He hung up on me, and I was even more confused. If he had not sent the message, who did? I drove home, feeling a little on edge. When I got back inside, Mike greeted me at the door. Of course, by greeted, I mean he took the case of beer and walked to the fridge, removed two, and sat back down on the couch. "Nice to see you too," I mumbled under my breath. I wanted to ask again about the weird message, but I just shrugged and grabbed a drink for myself and lumbered to my room. I was tired, so I decided to call it an early night. When I stepped into my room, my phone buzzed, and I saw another text from no number. Almost time. Hide. Or seek. I was getting creeped out at that point. I did not know how the messages kept getting through after blocking it. I decided to respond again. "Stop messaging me. I do not know who this is, and I do not want to play. Leave me alone." I hit send and tried blocking it again. This time I turned my phone off for good measure. I tried to settle down and just go to sleep. I managed to nod off for a bit, but after a while I heard a knock at my door. I jolted up and heard the slurring voice of Mike. "Hey man, I don't know what the hell, but I think someone is trying to get a hold of you. I just got a trippy message, and it sounded like what you were talking about earlier. Check it out." I rushed to the door and saw Mike looking at his phone in a confused stupor. I grabbed it from him and looked at the message. "Last chance. Hide." My heart sank, and I felt a wave of panic rising in my chest. I asked Mike, "When did you get this?" He shrugged his shoulders. "A while ago, man. I don't remember exactly. I was not looking at my phone. What's going on? I stepped back into my room and turned my own phone back on. Sure enough, I had a missed message. Okay. You hide. I stared at the words in mounting fear. I had no idea what to do, but I felt suddenly exposed. I considered calling the police, but I did not know what I would tell them. Nothing had happened, only a creepy text thread. Yet something felt wrong, like something bad was about to happen. I looked over at Mike and he looked confused and a bit paranoid as well. Before I could try and explain things, the lights went out. At first, I thought it might be a power outage. Then I heard the slow creaking sound of the front door opening, despite being sure I had locked it when I got home. Terror gripped me, and I knew something was very wrong. I crouched down in the dark and whispered to Mike the only thing I could think, to say, "Hide!" I crawled on my floor and under my bed. I was about to call 911 when my phone suddenly died as well. It was on one moment, and then just lost power, despite having over half a charge left. I put the useless device in my pocket and tried to see if there was anything I could use as a light source. I froze and thought better about moving when I heard a strange shuffling sound. Then heavy footsteps, much heavier than Mike's. I noticed the temperature in the room had dropped suddenly, and it felt like it was freezing. As the footsteps resounded and moved closer, I smelled a fetid tinge in the air as well, like something rotten. I crawled as far back and huddled up as small as I could make myself under the bed and held my breath. I heard my closet door gently shutting and thought it might be Mike hiding in there. Then the heavy footsteps picked up the pace. I suddenly realized if I could hear the door closing, whatever the hell was in here with us could hear it too. I considered calling out to Mike to move, but fear froze my voice. The heavy footsteps were in the room now, despite my efforts to try and see what stalked us. I could not make anything out. I sat there, silent and immobile, holding my breath and waiting. After several long moments, I thought we might be safe. Then I heard the door to the closet break and shatter. Then Mike screamed, a haunting and nightmare-inducing shriek. Something had found him. The cry of terror was suddenly silenced. I did not hear anything violent, just the scream, and then utter silence. I had no idea what the hell had just happened. For a long while I sat there paralyzed with fear, until finally the light came back on. When I summoned the courage to creep out from under the bed and see what had happened, I was shocked when laying on the ground was the shattered remains of my closet door. Despite the ruin of the door, there were no traces of anyone or anything else. Mike had vanished. I slowly called out, louder and more emboldened as I moved into the hall where the light was on again. No one responded. No one else was there. I stumbled through the apartment, searching for my roommate, but he was gone. Worse still, I had no idea just where the hell he had gone. No trace of Mike has shown up in the last couple days since it happened. I don't know if anything will. I think he can finally be declared missing, but I don't know if it will do any good. It was impossible, but whatever had broken into our place had found him, and now he was missing. He had lost hide and seek, and that thing, whatever it was, took him away. The entire nightmare is unbelievable, yet even now as I write about my friend's impossible disappearance, I am shocked when I receive another text. Hide and seek? I don't know what to do. I don't know what this is. Maybe I should respond again, a different way this time. Maybe it might help, might keep me safe from whatever or whoever is doing this. Perhaps I can find out. My reply is one word: seek. My mom's been acting weird lately for the past week. Something's been off with my mom. She's still doing all the usual things, making her black coffee first thing in the morning, tending the roses in the backyard that she refuses to let die, even though it's August and the heat's brutal. She still calls me sweetheart. Still leaves post-its with gentle reminders to eat, hydrate, sleep. But she won't look me in the eyes anymore, not for more than a second or two. I caught her watching me last night from the hallway mirror. I was sitting on the couch scrolling on my phone, and I just felt it. That kind of prickling heat behind your neck, like someone's watching. I looked up, and there she was standing stiffly behind the corner, peering in like she was studying something. Or someone. When our eyes met, she froze. Then she forced a smile. "You okay, honey?" I nodded. She disappeared down the hallway like nothing happened, but I know she was watching. This morning, she left a slice of toast on the kitchen table for me, same as always. But there was no butter, no jelly, not even a napkin. It was just dry. I asked her if everything was all right. She hesitated. "Of course. Why wouldn't it be?" I shrugged. "You just seem distant lately." She looked at me for a long time. Her fingers were tight around the coffee mug. Then she said, slowly, "Sometimes people change, and sometimes they think no one will notice." I tried to laugh it off, but my chest felt hollow. I didn't eat the toast. It's not just the weird glances or the strange things she says. She started locking her bedroom door at night. She never used to do that, and I swear, one night I heard her whispering behind it, like prayers or warnings. This morning I woke up and found her in the living room, going through old photo albums. She didn't even flinch when I walked in. "Looking for something?" I asked. She stared down at a photo of us from years ago. Me, at least. I think it's me smiling in front of a birthday cake, frosting on my chin. Her eyes flicked up to my face, then back to the photo. Her hands were trembling. "You used to have a mole," she whispered. I blinked. "What?" "On your left cheek," she said, tapping the photo. "Where is it?" I touched my cheek. I guess it faded." Her lips pressed into a tight line. "Moles don't fade." I couldn't think of anything to say, just stood there like an idiot. Tonight she left a knife under her pillow. I saw it when I walked past her room. The door was cracked open, and she was pretending to sleep. But I saw her fingers curled tight around the blanket, like she was bracing for something. I think she's afraid of me. And the thing is, I've been having dreams. Dreams of things that don't make sense. I hear echoes, I see a forest, wet leaves. I even smell smoke. And my face staring at me with wide, terrified eyes as I reached out for him. As I stepped into my skin, I start to question myself. What am I? Am I really who I am? Then one night I go to the bathroom and look in the mirror and see all the imperfections, all the mistakes. Then I see it. I see what my mom sees. I'm not her son, and Mom knows it. Enjoy the rest of the gameplay, and be sure to check the description below for credits and links to read along to the stories featured in this video. We've reached the end of the video. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe for more. Let me know in the comments what you think about this style, horror storytelling with gameplay in the background, and if you want to see more like this. You can even throw this on while studying, chilling, sleeping, or working. Whatever vibe you're on.